One of the most interesting changes to Inuyasha since then that we saw in the first episode of Yashahime was Kagome mentioning the 7 autumnal flowers, a poem from the Manyoshu by, as she says, Yamanoe something or other. In the case of the other edition of Yotsume the Owl Demon, I mean, I get it, we're adding an antagonist in some way and trying to make the story more interesting, but what was the deal with mentioning this poem? Well, many of you asked for me to talk about this, so that's what we're going to be doing today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more daily Inuyasha and Yashahime content. With that all out of the way, let's talk about this poem. The Manyoshu is the earliest collection of Japanese art and poetry, and this poem by Yamanoe Okura was included. The poem goes as follows. Flowers blossoming in autumn fields. When I count them on my fingers, they number 7. The flowers of bush clover, eulalia, arrowroot, pink, petrinia, also mist flower, and morning faces flower. Naturally, that sounds super strange in English because poems are usually intended to be read in their own language. So I decided to look up some interpretations for a better sense of its meaning. Autumn is celebrated in a lot of Japanese poems. It's the end of summer's beauty, and new beauty starts to blossom through its foliage and grasses. Apparently the Heian aristocrats would have these grasses growing in their gardens, but it was Yamanoe who popularized them in writing. So let's take a look at these flowers. The first was bush clover, sometimes called hagi. It's the most well-known of the autumn grasses. It also played a famous role in the Tale of Genji, which was one of Japan's greatest works of literature. As Genji's wife was on her deathbed, their daughter, the Empress, visited, and as they say their farewells, they think of the hagi growing in the garden. The second flower was eulalia, also called Suzuki, Obana, or tail flower. It's a feathery white flower that looks a lot like an animal's tail, and there's a famous Zen phrase about them saying, "A white horse enters a tail flower field." This flower is associated with the moon as well, and when I'm thinking of puffy white things and the moon, I tend to think about Sesshomaru. Then we had arrowroot, or kuzu. This flower was also mentioned in the Tale of Genji as another woman he loved passed away. Nadeshiko, or pink, is a type of flower with fringed petals that grow in clusters of 5. The name directly translates to an affectionate touch for a child, and it's thought to be a very endearing flower. Ominaeshi, or petrinia, is a perennial herb that is sometimes called the maiden flower. It's typically associated with romantic writings. Fujibakama, or the mist flower, translates to purple trousers, and it's often used in poetry to represent both masculinity and the departing of lovers. The last named grass is asagao, or also known as morning faces, a plant from China which originally was failed to be cultivated in Japan, but later would flourish. It's also commonly used in tea rooms, and when Yotsume was first introduced, he was a tea master. Something interesting to note. But morning faces also goes by another name on top of asagao, and that's Kikyo. So there's that. Almost all of these plants represent the end of something and the beginning of something new. So they might have just mentioned this poem to represent that the end of Inuyasha was happening and the start of Yashahime, a new era, as the intro song's name might suggest. There are varieties of these flowers which can line up to the coloring of each of the main cast in the original series, and that's where I was kind of leaning with this originally, but I don't think it lines up perfectly. I think it's more of just a reference to something new starting. So yeah, nothing too crazy, but I thought it was something cool that we could look into together. With all that being said, if you enjoyed this look at the poem that Kagome mentioned, be sure to leave a like on this video, and subscribe for more Inuyasha and Yashahime content. This one might be a little bit different, but we'll go back to normal tomorrow. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember to stay excellent.